What going people from when they hear the voice the title, you know exactly what we're gonna talk about in the video today. So we see Irish and Chin. They did a whole podcast discussing Alkaline and the Barkley show. You know, basically for sum it up, talking about how great of an artist Alkaline is and the doors were Alkaline now open for new artists, upcoming artists who really and truly don't know how to approach the old dancehall space and feel like say them need the gatekeepers, them are approval from the industry bullies them. Alkaline approved to them, say no, you can do this all by yourself with a strong team and still win. So mega make you hear what him offer say and they will forward back and discuss it.
So much to talk about when you speak about Alkaline, and I think that people are just scratching the surface with him and not really looking at what he's bringing to the table. He has basically changed the whole trajectory of how you become a star, and he has opened the door of possibilities. So artists no longer have to travel that traditional route and do what the artists before them did to get to the same destination, because Alkaline now has shown the industry that there's other ways to do it, right? And clearly when you look at his career and how he went about things, you can clearly say that he's a one-off, right? And then on top of him being a one-off, he makes one of the biggest statements that I can, point out, right? That I like, wow, right? He not only sold out the Barclays, but he sold it out by himself, right? And he also sold it out with limited artists on the event.
And that,
right?
And that
I want you guys to look at that as a statement. You understand what I'm saying, Drew? Yeah. Right? It's like limited artists at that show performing. It's almost like he, and again, I'm not speaking for him. I'm talking from my perspective. It's almost like he says, yo, I got here. I'm going to live this moment by myself. I'm not living this moment with other artists. I'm living this moment by myself because I worked hard by myself to get here. So him being on that stage by himself, right, says to me that, yo, I'm celebrating my journey by myself.
And then to do it well. And not only to do it, but then to do it well.
And then to do it well. So it's a huge statement, because most artists would have had some of the popular names run out to help them entertain the audience, through that 2-hour, 3-hour show.
And this is a great point, because a lot of people say, oh, him shouldn't have some artist on it and give the man them a strength knowing how big the show was and how successful. But at the end of the day, the artist just want to shine. Want to do this by himself and show people them say, I may do this. Him work hard feet. So there's nothing wrong in not sharing the glory with nobody else. Nobody else never help you for reach where you reach. And then at the end of the day, you cannot please the audience, because if you did have other artists on the show, you don't hear say, because of the other artists, them it's sold out. So the man just need a moment for himself, and that's okay. Don't make me know think about that, people, and we're going to listen some more to what them have to say.
He had Cranium, but then again, if you also read into that the way I'm reading into that, Cranium is not part of the quote-unquote popular artists. Exactly. The statements that he's making he seems to be a very calculated artist, is what I'm saying. Like, Alkaline is one of the biggest artists right now.
Definitely.
And I don't think that people are realizing the impact that he's been making. He's done something that not only did people think that he couldn't do it, but he did it without following the traditional road that every other artist has followed to get to that point. And that's what I think is so significant. So while we celebrate Alkaline, right, and, we all are cheering that this is a good thing for dancehall, which it is, right? And, Alkaline sold out. We also got to celebrate and kind of really look at the approach that he took to understand that indeed he's a living testimony of his whole new rules mantra. I like to look at the things that nobody else seems to be looking at, or very few people are looking at. He has broken the traditional mold of how you get from, the start line to the finish line. He wasn't introduced by another artist. He doesn't come from any camp of artists, right? He had a brief spell with Movado and Jamil, but I don't count that as adding to his thing, right? This artist totally did his whole journey by himself with absolutely no affiliates. He also challenges that whole concept of you can't manipulate the industry from foreign. So that's another thing. There's so much things when you look at Alkaline to talk about. The fact that he's not aligned with any artist or any artist camp. The fact that he left Jamaica and still able to manipulate the dancehall space from Florida or wherever it is that he is, right, is remarkable. The fact that he was able to build this cult following is absolutely remarkable. and then now take all of that to the stage. I saw a picture of him that they took out of at the Barclays 10 years ago. He's standing in front of the Barclays.
Wow.
Right? As a young artist, 10 years ago, he's standing in front of the Barclays, and 10 years later, he sells out the Barclays.
Yeah.
It's, his journey is crazy.
So people that are part of what him offer say for the whole Alkaline show and all the people them just not get the artist in flowers. Him also went on to pick up the promoter of the show, and this is what him have to say about that.
Again, you know what? I also got to say shouts to CJ Milan, right? And here's why I'm saying big up to CJ Milan, right? Vision is something that a lot of people don't have in our culture. Normally what we do is follow the trends of whatever everybody else was doing before us that we see work, right? Yes, we're celebrating Alkaline, but we also have to give some of Alkaline's celebration to her being able to, take that risk and present that. You understand? Because again, CJ Milan, I said it to you guys at the ending of last year or the beginning of this year that she is the promoter of the year 2025, right? And I believe the reason that she's so successful is because she's seeing something that nobody else is seeing. And she's willing to gamble with artists that a lot of us are not willing to gamble with. And again, if you ask the average person in dancehall, yo, I'm going to put Alkaline in Barclays by himself, they're going to tell you that it couldn't work. Because I heard everybody saying that it cannot work.
Yeah, not by himself.
Yeah, I heard everybody saying that Alkaline could not do it by himself. But she took the gamble with it, and she showed that it can happen. And her investment in Alkaline, right, in the Barclays, scores for the culture of reggae and dancehall. Right? So we are continuing to score in the industry, like it or not. I just give credit where credit is due. We're scoring in our industry right now based on the efforts of CJ Milan. And if anybody disagree, you're an idiot or you're a hater, right? We are scoring. We are in a new level in dancehall entertainment because of CJ Milan and the risk that she takes with the artists and her productions.
Yeah.
Simple. Hands down. So big up to CJ. You know what I mean? I can't big up Alkaline and a big up.
Yeah.
Alright, people, so that's their take on the whole Alkaline show and everything that is being said in the media. What is your take? Remember to leave a like, comment, subscribe, turn on the post notification bell so as we drop a video,